Detectives of Reddit, what are some of the creepiest cases you have worked on? Alright. Detective now, but this happened when I was on patrol several years ago. Got a call to check the welfare of a guy whose neighbor hadn't seen him in a couple years. Why it took so long to report? But it was out in a rural area. Anyway, we roll up, and the windows are black with mold and flies. Car is parked in the garage. No signs of forced entry. Breach the door and find said guy wrapped up in a phone cord beside a toppled chair in his dining room. He was mummified / melting into the carpet. Barely recognizable as a human aside from his shape and clothes. The smell of him mingled with the inches of stagnant water in his basement from burst pipes and all the dead flies and mold. I'll never forget it. We also found 2 bags of groceries neatly packed on the floor in his kitchen. House was very tidy as well. No witnesses. Estranged from his family. Clearly had a cat, but we never found its remains. Medical record indicated he had a heart condition. My theory is he was having a heart attack and tried to call 911, but never got to make the call. Perhaps the creepiest part? His mailbox was overflowing with past due bills and cancelled utility notices. The last one was a couple months old, and it still took someone that long to call. I find it really sad that no one knew he was gone in all that time. Agreed. I didn't learn too much about his past as I didn't do the follow-up investigation, but I heard he had a wife and 2 adult daughters and they were estranged. Guy lived alone on an amazing piece of property beside a river, and I heard there was a bidding war for it afterwards. Our next door neighbor was a poorly chap and I took him to hospital when he was having a heart attack. He later died of complications. It was known that he had 2 daughters, but we couldn't trace them for the funeral. No one picked him up from the crematorium either, so I went and got him and kept a few things from the house in case the daughters ever showed up and wanted something. They never did. I stayed next door for years. He was a good friend to me and I thought it'd do right by him. It's a shame he was alone. Hopefully someone was able to trace his family members eventually. There's a program here in the States called NamUs NamUs.gov/, which is a list of persons in 3 categories: missing, unidentified dead, and unclaimed dead. The last category currently has 279 open cases. Forensic account here. I had a client whose employee had used the company account for payments to a graphic designer, except instead of marketing materials, he had commissioned $15k worth of lolly and Sonic porn. That is either a lot of porn or a few pieces of exquisite Sonic porn. It was the beginning of an ongoing agreement for more. The worst part was telling the president of the company, a nice grandfatherly man in his 60s, what the money was spent on. My poor man. I feel bad for the artist too. My brother. Not me. I usually tell this long and dramatic, but here is the quick to the punch version. Schizophrenic woman reported being watched by ghosts at the abandoned funeral home. Turned out when investigating, someone, or something, dumb was actually watching the people in her building and keeping crude logbooks of their coming and goings, and left some of them in the place. My brother's theory was that they were discovered / almost discovered and fled. Anyways, no idea what kind of crime was being planned, but that whole thing sounded creepy as duck to me. Trying to find a way to bury someone alive, or a way to gain access to the incinerator more likely. There is easier places to get to with incinerators, like the animal crematory or steel factory. IDK, I imagine it'd be easier to get just about anywhere with fire than the human crematory, or I would think at least. I'd be surprised if a vet clinic had an incinerator big enough to fit a human. And a steel factory would probably be operating, or at least manned 24/7. A funeral home would close for the night and be empty. Probably. Detective here. Attached to a coastal town with a fishing wharf. Started work one day when we get a call from the water police who have responded to our abandoned boat floating off the coast. They have towed it into the bay where they requested our assistance and they would advise us further on arrival. We head down thinking someone had stolen the boat or something else routine. When we get there we are told that no one went further than the entrance before it was sealed off as a crime scene. We have a quick look below the deck and see why. 3 people clearly dead with one slumped over the wheel, one on the floor and the other in a chair. No struggle, no injuries and nothing out of place. Completely silent other than the water on the hull and the fender squeaking against the police launch. Turned out to be an accident. Lack of upkeep on the very old engine meant fumes leaked in, and the three were poisoned. At which point the engine just ran, until the diesel was gone. Something about this one just hits me. People looking to get out on the ocean, and have a nice time. Not knowing they won't come back alive. It's just sad. A buddy of mine worked on Link. Houston Press. com/news/an open but shut case 6,569,988. He said there was this guy who liked to shoot turtles on a pond on his property. He sees a turtle and shoots it 2 times with a .22 rifle. He had a hunting dog that would go fetch the turtles. He would make turtle soup with them. The dog goes out and gets the turtle and an arm pops up. The turtle he shot was the back of the man's head who was dead in the pond. The guy who fell into the pond might have had an accident or car trouble and slipped in the clay and hit the water at night the day after Christmas while drunk. The cops ruled it drowning. The body had water in his lungs and his blood had pooled. Lividity was at an angle due to him face down in the pond. There was a website that the parents had, I couldn't find it, that said that the guy shooting the turtles murdered the guy by shooting him in the head and dumping him in the pond. Read the link for more info. I don't know any of the people, just the weird story. This happened when I was a newer cop on patrol. Long before I became a detective. I was working midnights in a neighborhood with a high violent crime rate, and we got sent to a dispute at a bar. This wasn't just any bar. We always referred to it as a Star Wars cantina because it was always a shit show. We stopped a rape in progress in the dirt alley behind the same bar not long after this. I was working with a female that night. We make our way through the bar systematically booting people out and get to the bathrooms. I opened the door to the men's room and it's empty. Single stall bathrooms. My female partner goes to open the women's bathroom door but it's locked. She knocks on the door and a female says, "I'll be out in a minute." We advise her that the bar is closing. Bars close at 4 AM in New York. After a couple of minutes we begin to grow impatient. Female partner knocks on the door again, and the female agrees to open the door. When she comes out, we ask her what took so long. She's not providing any substance in her answers. She's wearing tight yoga pants, and we notice that she has a large bulge in the back of her pants/crotch. We believed she was either doing drugs in the bathroom and shoved the rest in her pants, or that it was a weapon. When we question her about it, she's very evasive and won't answer us. Female partner begins to search her as she pulls back the female's pants and shines her flashlight down to look. My partner says, "Duck." She sees a baby arm sticking out from the female's vagina and up through her ass cheeks. This chick had been drinking and smoking crack all day. She had a stillborn and continued to stay at the bar and drink/smoke crack. When the ambulance arrived, they went back into the bathroom with the female and pulled the rest of the baby out of the female and into the toilet bowl. The baby was completely formed, except it never formed a head. It was just sunken in around the neck. I've seen some crazy shit in my career like brutal homicides etc. But that one always stands out the most. Worked all day, wanted to relax and not think about virus. Went to Reddit. Goodbye internet. Boy is your username relative to the story. The King Hill brilliant. I have a couple that I was tangentially involved with. First one that comes to mind was this kid. Smart kid. Chinese student coming to America for school on an engineering scholarship I believe. Was dating a girl during undergrad, but they broke up so he could go to grad school at an Ivy League. She started talking to someone else a while after they broke up, and he caught wind of it. He bought an airsoft gun and some knives online. Next day airshipped them to his apartment. Drove back to where his ex lived and staked out her house, taking meticulous notes about the comings and goings. When his ex was home, when her roommate was home, he went and knocked on the door when just the roommate was home. Brandished the airsoft gun like it was a BB gun, and negotiated his way in. He bound and gagged her roommate and waited for his ex to get back. When she finally got back, he forced her at gunpoint to sit in a chair, where he tied her up and taped over her mouth. He stabbed her in the neck once and then just stared at her, expecting that to kill her instantly, like a movie or video game. When it didn't, he stabbed her, I don't know how many more times, but a lot more. To me the creepy part is the level of planning that he did. I can understand a crime of passion, but this was so dispassionate. To have enough time to order your murder weapons online and have them delivered, then drive hours to the destination of your murder and plan it out, and at no point get the feeling that you shouldn't follow through with this act. To me that's the sign of a true sociopath. Did he kill the roommate? No. Roommate was uninjured. She testified about what happened within the apartment. She watched her friend get killed. Okay, here's a non-joke, but it's my husband's story. He is a detective. Someone dumped a body in an alley right by the PD, but in a spot that no one frequented. So after a few days in midsummer heat the body melted so bad they couldn't ID by looks or tattoos. Just the clothes and hair. And DNA once they figured out who she was. Long story short, it was a serial killer who had dumped her, and they found CCTV of him stalking people at the local shopping center. Right after he dumped the body, they watched him spend over 4 hours walking around, leaving to his car and changing clothes/hat and going back in, following women for a bit, changing his mind. He left empty-handed and ended up getting caught a couple states away the following week. Creepiest part for me was that I went shopping there the same day. Made me thankful for all the situational awareness training I got from my dad, also a detective. Close bracket. Made my husband more paranoid, but that's a different story. What kind of tips did he teach you? My dad taught me things like pay attention to people around you. Take notice if the same person seems to be passing by you frequently. Whenever you're walking alone somewhere, keep your head up and watch around you. You're an easier target if you're looking down in your bag or at your phone. Pretty much most of it is be aware of your surroundings and pay attention to things that seem out of place or different. Trust your gut feeling that something is off. That's an evolutionary fight or flight response, don't ignore it. My dad also gave me this talk. Also that if you feel someone is following you and the streets are empty, no one to get help from, run around the nearest corner and hide under a car before the person has a chance to turn the corner. Never tried it though. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.